It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. You can email us as well at randykabc@gmail.com. Search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts, and do us a favor, share the episodes with your friends, your family, people in your Facebook groups. Gavin Newsom is not a fan of Proposition 36. That is the understatement of the year. Gavin Newsom campaigned against Prop 36, but not too heavily because he saw the writing on the wall. But any chance he could to talk about what a bad idea he thought Prop 36 was, he would tell you. And he would say, well, this is just going back to the horrible days of the 90s and early 2000s. And Gavin Newsom did not like the idea of mandating treatment felonies. Gavin Newsom didn't like the idea of stricter penalties for retail theft than he was proposing in the legislature. But the voters spoke differently. The voters overwhelmingly, 70% said, no, we want Prop 36. We want revisions to Proposition 47. And we want to see, to use everyone's favorite term, people actually being held accountable for their crimes. Well, here we are in the first budget year of Prop 36, and Gavin Newsom, even though the voters told him what they wanted, there was a mandate by the electorate, isn't going to be putting any funding towards Prop 36, and he blames it on Prop 36. For more, here is CBS Sacramento.
California in a cash crisis tonight. We've heard that before. Well, let's take a dive. A live look at the state capitol into the crisis. California now faces a $39 billion budget deficit. That means big cuts across the board. The governor's May revise aims to solve the now $12 billion budget deficit. $322 billion spending plan includes plan.
By the way, that spending was $200 billion 6 years ago. How it got up to $320 billion, who knows?
Plans to roll back state-funded health insurance for undocumented immigrants. More on that in a minute. As well as a proposed cut of Planned Parenthood's budget by a third and an elimination of health care coverage for drugs used for weight loss like Ozempic. The governor.
Wait, that was being covered? Uh-oh.
The governor blaming that $12 billion deficit on uncertainty, he says, is caused by President Trump, pointing to the president's tariff policies and likely cuts to Medicaid.
Well, I mean, that was a month. What happened the whole last year?
California is under assault. The United States of America, in many respects, is under assault because we have a president that's been reckless in terms of assaulting those growth engines. Has created a climate of deep uncertainty.
Now, state Republicans firing back at Newsom and Democrats, saying they only have themselves to blame. Notably, not in the budget proposal, funding for the voter-approved Proposition 36.
Your reporter Ashley Sharp getting answers on why that was left out.
Gavin Newsom doesn't like the idea of people being compelled into treatment. I don't know what it is. Gavin Newsom doesn't think people should have to recover from their addictions. I don't know. But he definitely doesn't want to pay for it and pay for more treatment beds or put that as a priority in a $320 billion budget. I don't know why. What were all those beds we voted for in Prop 1 supposed to be for, if not for mental health and addiction?
Those advocating for Prop 36 to be funded in the state's budget wanted anywhere from $250 million to $400 million. Governor Newsom left it out entirely, while also pledging fiscal responsibility in light of a $12 billion budget deficit.
Again, it's a $320 billion deficit. It's a $320 billion budget. What the Prop 36 people were asking for wasn't much. There's a whole lot of waste that we're funding, including the $1 billion a year that's going to high-speed rail for the next 20 years. But we don't want to pay for treatment beds that when people get picked up on their third possession charge, we say, hey, you can go to treatment instead of prison. Gavin would rather have them go to prison. What's the deal, Gavin? Do you want them to lay out on the streets? Because you just did a whole press conference how you said that's unacceptable.
It's incumbent upon the state administration and the legislature to find a way to fund this issue.
Greg Totten, CEO of the California District Attorneys Association, first fought to get Prop 36 passed in the November general election, and now the fight continues to get it funded.
It's the compassionate, it's the responsible, it's the right thing to do.
Under Prop 36, those charged with a treatment-mandated felony have few options for help.
We're seeking funding for probation departments that supervise individuals that are subject to Proposition 36. And we're also, very importantly, seeking funding for behavioral health departments that provide the...
By the way, a lot of those behavioral health departments, county-run, were cut with Proposition 1 because Gavin Newsom changed the Mental Health Services Act to make it so we could spend that money on housing.
That provide
or Project Room Key and Home Key.
That provide the mechanism for treatment.
Prop 36 is the crackdown on crime, the voter-passed measure to reform Prop 47, which in 2014 reclassified many retail theft and drug-related felonies to misdemeanors in the effort of preventing prison overcrowding and saving the state money.
And what do you know? Around the same time that we started massively decarcerating, the homeless population exploded. Is that a correlation? Is correlation causation? Sometimes it is.
Critics say that opened the door for unprecedented crime with little to no consequence. As Governor Newsom points out on the new measure,
Prop 36, as you know, is an unfunded mandate.
So Gavin Newsom's whole bone to pick here as well. It didn't come with a tax or a specific funding source. No, but it's the voters telling you very directly what they want you to prioritize. And Gavin Newsom has no interest in prioritizing it.
It passed with no funding source. And though Prop 36 is now left out of the state budget,
Prop 47, in which they decry and criticize, is the source of those funds. They'll have the benefit of that $68 billion over the next few years.
Yeah, Gavin likes to paint this weird image where we've actually saved a whole bunch of money with Proposition 47 that's gone to treatment programs, which is nonsense because up until Prop 36, there was no way to compel anyone to those treatment programs. The drug court system disappeared.
By taking money away from similar programs under Prop 47.
The governor met with pushback.
And this governor and this legislature is ignoring the voices and the will of the people of California.
70% of California's voters have declared Proposition 36 a priority. And as a result, the state should do the same and fund the work that needs to happen at the local level.
So where does the money come from, if not from the state budget, to provide that treatment?
It'll be a patchwork. For small jurisdictions, it's a huge challenge. We should never assume that local government can just fix it.
The California District Attorneys Association and other advocates say they're going to keep pushing for that state funding.
So what do we do if we picked at somebody, we've arrested them, and now we're going to charge them with a Prop 36 felony that's a treatment mandated felony, but we didn't invest in the treatment beds? What happens then? I sure would like to know. But of course, there's a whole other half of Prop 36, and that is the retail theft portion, where while Gavin Newsom loved to tout all of the big improvements that he and the legislature did with their big package, Prop 36 made it so once you're a repeat thief on your third charge of theft, it's getting upgraded to a felony. And what do you know? Local district attorneys up and down the state are running with that, including in Los Angeles County, which I know Los Angeles County is usually not known for being tough on crime. But to his credit, new district attorney Nathan Hochman has filed over 1,000 Prop 36 charges in just the last few months. This thing only came into effect in December, and it has sent so many people to MCJ, Men's Central Jail, that now the Board of Supervisors isn't sure if they can close Men's Central Jail, which was a nonsensical plan to begin with. But Nathan Hochman sat down with our buddy Alex Michelson at Fox 11. Let's hear how he's using Prop 36 to crack down on retail crime.
And a similar message on retail theft. This is something that you really ran on. And you also ran supporting this idea of Prop 36, which is making things tougher in terms of some of these retail thefts. You were at the 7-Eleven yesterday, which has sort of an interesting story that sort of explains this concept. What happened at this 7-Eleven?
So this 7-Eleven, which is located at Olympic and La Cienega in West Los Angeles, it's owned by an individual family. Every 7-Eleven franchise is not corporate owned. They're actually owned by individual families.
Wait, is this the one that was taken over by the teenagers?
who were being effectively terrorized by people coming in every single day, and often it was the same person, taking whatever they want, not paying for it, knowing that law enforcement in the past could do very little. They didn't even want to file an insurance claim because they would lose their insurance policy.
Yeah, that's a whole other part of this. You know, there's a lot of talk about, hey, how come people aren't just filing police reports? Well, part of the reason that a lot of businesses, when they're the victim of a theft or a smash and grab or what have you, are reluctant to file a police report, which then means the police statistics are not accurate, is if you file a police report, you could lose your insurance. It's all tied together. All of California's problems at the same time.
So what's happened with Proposition 36 is that it's targeted the repeat chronic offenders, people with 2 convictions already for theft, and now they're going ahead and doing it again. That particular situation, we arrested someone named Corey Somerville, who's been alleged in the complaint to commit 12 different felony violations in 2025 alone.
Wow.
This is only May.
Where he was coming into this 7-Eleven, grabbing whatever he wants, not paying for it, and doing it sometimes multiple times in a day. So Proposition 36 has given us the ability to bring felony charges, to actually hold him much more accountable for his actions. And to sort of emphasize that message, we came up with a window sticker, a 6-by-6-inch window clinger that goes to a store's window that says very simply, warning, this is a protected business.
It's really interesting. So, yes, there are all these businesses getting these stickers that say, hey, don't shoplift here. This place is under protection for the Retail Theft Task Force. It's kind of like, have you ever noticed that when you walk into a post office, there's a big sign that says, warning, armed robbery of a post office can lead you to 20 plus years in federal prison? That's just an interesting thing to put outside of a post office. I don't know if that is in every neighborhood, but it's definitely at the post office that I frequent in Encino.
Thieves will be prosecuted by the Retail Theft Task Force, and a number to call.
And so people can get that sticker?
Yes, they can get that sticker from either business associations, from your police departments. They're going to start to be available this Friday.
I mean, part of this is getting the word out that there's a new sheriff in town, new DA in town, and we're not going to tolerate this. And even though there isn't a lot of funding for the whole drug addiction part of Prop 36, which a lot of people were very, 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 very keen on, the fact that we're going heavy on the retail theft part of this is important too. Because what do you know? A lot of those repeat retail thieves are also the drug addicts.
And so how is Prop 36 actually working? We have some numbers at this point?
We do. We have over 1,000, since December 18th of 2024 when it went live, we have over 1,000 Proposition 36 felony arrests.
Wow.
Really, again,
that's huge, considering that the former guy who had that job, George Gascon, the godfather of Prop 47, wouldn't have charged any of these people with a felony. One, you had legislation that changed that, but two, you have someone that's willing to execute it.
Really, again, you can't qualify for this arrest unless you have 2 prior theft convictions. And so what it's doing, it's removing these chronic thieves from the drawing board, essentially. These thieves that have been particularly terrorizing these local stores, and again, making it so the people didn't want to go in these stores. Because you see these people stealing, you're worried about what will happen, so you don't come in. So these stores...
I think we've all been in that situation where you've seen rampant shoplifting in a store, and while it didn't directly affect you, you think twice about going back to that location. I've seen it. Not at any of the supermarkets that I frequent nowadays, but when I lived in Reseda, there's a Vons on Tampa and Victory. In fact, it's the Vons where this drop actually comes from. The 2 ladies in Reseda witnessing a guy getting his Rolex stolen in the parking lot. I have seen people supermarket sweep run out of that supermarket with several shopping carts full of stolen goods. I've seen it enough times that I will never shop at that Vons. Okay, I was never going to shop at that one, but that's other reasons, and I don't need to talk about how they never had anything that I needed, like Velveeta.
So these stores have suffered, the communities have suffered, the quality of life has suffered, and we're doing our best to reverse that trend.
Governor Newsom put out his budget proposal yesterday. He was not a fan of Prop 36. A lot of the Democratic leaders in the legislature were not fans of Prop 36. What they argued last October was that there's no funding mechanism for Prop 36. So this is going to be
Yeah, but it's a priority from the voters. And if the voters are telling you what the priority is, maybe you find some money in your $300 billion budget to fund treatment beds for the people who are addicted on the streets, who we've just decided to let wither and die.
Prop 36. So this is going to be a big unfunded mandate. Voters overwhelmingly supported it. 70% of voters, including a whole lot of Democrats who voted for Newsom, voted against him on this. Now Newsom is saying there's still no funding mechanism and we're out of money, so I'm not going to fund it. So good luck. All those county leaders that were in support of this, like you, figure out the money. You fund it yourself. What's your response to that, and what does that mean for L.A. County?
All right, let's see what Hochman has to say about Gavin not wanting to fund Prop 36.
The response is that I hope that Governor Newsom and the state legislature can finally put politics to the side and deal with a real issue that affects communities.
Well, you haven't been in Sacramento lately, have you?
In this case, it happens to be retail theft and illegal drug use. Because on retail theft, again, we can imprison these folks. They can get a felony. We can even get them in diversion programs where appropriate. But on the illegal drug use side, again, you have 2 or more convictions for illegal drug use, meth, heroin, fentanyl. On that third one, you were supposed to get a court-ordered rehab program. But if we don't have the beds, and we don't have the beds here, they've been seeking that money from the state and basically saying, look, it's a state law. It was passed by actually the voters, not the state legislature. We didn't need the governor to sign this one because the voters decided to do them themselves. But if you don't want to do your job to actually make this successful, then the voters at some point will have their say again. It usually is at the ballot box. And the people who want to stand in the way of making this a success, you know, I don't think it'll bode well for their electoral future.
Well, Gavin Newsom's termed out, so he can do whatever he wants, although if he thinks he's going to run for president on this record, good luck with that. But Hochman's totally right about members of the Assembly, members of the state Senate. They still have a say in how this budget goes. It's not finalized yet. And if they don't put any money into Prop 36, then they got to go. Because this is something that the voters wanted. It's a real problem that we want to see addressed, and we're trying to do it compassionately. We're not saying that people that are addicted to fentanyl and meth should just go straight to prison. We're saying they should have an option to go through treatment, mandated treatment that they just can't flake out on, not outpatient, inpatient. And we don't want to fund that? Unacceptable. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're going through Gavin Newsom's declination to fund Prop 36 in the 2025-2026 budget and the reaction from local electeds and future candidates for California's governor. We'll find out what Gavin Newsom has to say in his defense. We'll hear what other candidates have to say, the ones that are running to replace Gavin Newsom, including Katie Porter and Antonio Villaraigosa, on a very important issue because it was an issue voted very overwhelmingly into law, Prop 36. But first, how about this? 790 KABC welcomes the Psychedelic Furs at the Greek Theater on September 22nd. Tickets are on sale Friday at Ticketmaster.com. Right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing. By the way, if you've ever missed an episode of this show, which is definitely possible, check out our podcast. Go to KABC.com, click on podcasts, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for the KABC News Blitz and hit subscribe. You can listen to yesterday's show where we tried to figure out where the $100 million from fire aid went, or Friday's show, Gavin Newsom committing $1 billion a year for high-speed rail for the next 20 years. Share them with your friends. If you're in a Facebook group that talks about local issues or politics, share one of these episodes. Copy and paste the link. We'd appreciate it. Just search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts, or even easier, go to kabc.com/newsblitz and all the episodes are there. When we come back, we'll hear Gavin Newsom's defense of why he refuses to fund Prop 36. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and share with your friends and family. Gavin Newsom doesn't want to fund Prop 36 in this year's budget. Shocker. Let's hear why.
Well, Prop 36, as you know, is an unfunded mandate.
But it is a mandate. It's the voters telling you how they want the state to go, and Gavin Newsom is tone deaf to that, or he thinks he knows better than you.
That said, the budget under Prop 47, the irony for some, Prop 47, in which they decry and criticize, is the source of those funds. Prop 47, we project a $91.5 million savings pursuant to Proposition 47.
And what exactly is that? That's what? The savings we had because you took a whole bunch of people out of prison? I'm really confused what he means by that, because if people are committing crimes, that's costing the state money in different ways. Just because you move money out of one budget, that has nothing to do with this. It's more obfuscation from Gavin Newsom.
Of which,
if you haven't noticed with the last election, the pro-criminal position is not popular.
Of which, in 27-28, the multi-year, that number will reduce down to $27.1 million. In order for the proponents of Proposition 36 to receive those dollars, so that fund will be depleted by, what's that, 68 million? Am I right?
Gavin Newsom, with his fuzzy math, not even addressing the heart of the issue. People want you to pay for treatment beds so people can get rehab instead of just giving them Narcan every single time they overdose on fentanyl. That's not an answer. By the way, Gavin Newsom spends state dollars on his own state-branded Narcan.
Dollars over the multi-year. So that's a source of funds under Prop 36. There's another impact, and you'll see it in the CDCR budget. As you know, we've closed down 3 prisons in the last few years in order to save money and be more efficient. We've shut down 42 housing units at 11 different facilities.
And by the way, when you close prisons, but you don't actually lower the prison guard's budget, that figure of how much it costs to incarcerate somebody goes through the roof. The actual cost of housing someone and feeding them and clothing them is about $15,000, according to most recent studies. The rest of that cost, when they tell you that it costs more to send someone to prison than it does to send them to Stanford, $150,000, is because of all of the salary negotiations of the people who work in the prisons who now have a much lighter load.
We've made other
So we haven't actually saved any money with any of this. And you can argue it's cost us money because of all the damage done to the community.
We've made other reductions beyond just closing prisons. By the way, we're proposing an additional October of 2026 or 2026 to shut down additional prison in this budget. But there are impacts.
We keep closing prisons, but it's still not saving us any money.
Because of Prop 36 to the CDCR population costs, just like their costs that the voters required under Prop 35. Billions and billions of dollars of Medicaid costs because of Prop 35. There are tens of millions, eventually hundreds of millions of dollars of costs that will be borne in probation and in corrections.
Well, yes, because we're supposed to be incarcerating people. Maybe you shouldn't be closing those prisons if we need them.
And the correction data is hard right now because 36 is in its infancy, so it's hard to figure out exactly the census population. So here's the way it looks a little bit. We're seeing we've dropped from 175,000 at peak prison population, down to about 90-ish.
We cut the prison population in half in the state of California. And what do you know? The state is a lot less safe than it used to be.
We were significantly seeing, we kept seeing that go like this. 36 is going to change that a little bit. We just don't know how much. But that uncertainty has kind of paused some things. And as a consequence, we expect in a couple of years some of those numbers to go back up and then to start to decline again.
Well, and another thing that he's not telling you is because of prison realignment AB 109, anyone convicted under this retail theft aspect of Prop 36, they'll get a 3-year felony sentence, but it's not a prison sentence. They'll be going to jail. They're not going to prison. Prison's still saved for the worst of the worst because we didn't want any violent people in prison. But what do you know? We end up depopulating violent people anyway because Prop 47 and Prop 57 as well changed the definition of what a violent crime is.
So that will be born in CDCR's budget, so we are funding that. Probation is feeling the stress. Judicial Council are feeling a little stress. And to the extent that they want to stress their theory of the case, that this was about retail theft, maybe it's about drug possession more, they'll have the benefit of that 60.
It was about both. And I don't know why Gavin Newsom doesn't want to fund the drug possession part of this, why it is so offensive to him that we should make it unacceptable for people to destroy their lives with meth and fentanyl and heroin and everything else that's out there on the street. And instead of just locking them in prison, which you say led us down a bad path, we want to give them treatment. Why don't you want to do that? It's so bizarre. What are Gavin Newsom's priorities, and how does he think this helps him electorally? If this is his ideology, what ideology is it that we're better off letting people suffer on the streets? Because he keeps saying homelessness is unacceptable. So which one is it? 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Got 18 months left with this guy. Then he's somebody else's problem. Let's go to Dave in Whittier. Dave, hello.
I want to make 3 points, but I'm not going to make 3 points. I'll just make 2. Number one, Gavin Newsom is like that bad guy at the table in the Westerns where he's playing the dirty cards. That's him with his slow talking, making it up as he goes along. He's dealing dirty cards. Okay, number one. Number 2, call your assemblywoman, assemblyman, and make them answer the question. Just ask them the question, and you tell them you want an answer by email. Are you for funding Prop 36? I'm trying to get that answered. And my congresswoman, the Democrat Lisa Calder, she never wants to answer questions. But folks, do it. And they're the ones that we go after. Like Hockman said.
I think you're totally right. And I think that's something everybody should do. If you're in the state of California, find out who your member of the assembly is, find out who your member of the state senate is, get a phone call, get it on the record, get an email out there, and enough of us do it, and we pack a town hall, and they realize that, oh, there actually is a constituency for this, which they should have realized anyway because of how many people voted for this. There's still time to put that funding in this budget. So, yes, you're totally right. And if they refuse to, then we know who to vote against in the next election.
Amen, brother.
Thanks so much for the call, Dave. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. 1-800-222-5222. Coming up, we'll hear what some of the new candidates for governor have to say about Prop 36. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. You know, maybe this won't make a difference, but maybe it will. It was pretty easy. In the last commercial break, you know what I did? I went to findyourrep.legislature.ca.gov. That's findyourrep.legislature.ca.gov. You type in your street address, and it tells you who your assembly person is and who your state senator is. So I typed in my address here in the San Fernando Valley, and my assemblyman is Jesse Gabriel. My state senator is Caroline Menvar. You click on the links to their websites. You go to contact, and there's a form where you put in your name, you put in your address, your email, your phone number. You say comment on bill legislation, and then I just wrote, Gavin Newsom's budget proposal doesn't include any funding for Prop 36 treatment beds. What are you going to do about that? Maybe it won't mean anything, but maybe it'll mean something. So I sent that to Jesse Gabriel. I sent that to Caroline Menvar. Find out who your state senator is. Find out who your assembly person is and send them a message about this. Let's hold these people, to use everyone's favorite word, accountable by not wanting to fund what is a major priority for California voters. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Bill in La Cañada. Bill, hello.
Hey, Randy, Hochman mentioned having 2 or more convictions for meth or heroin use makes you eligible for a Prop 36 incarceration. What an irony and a contradiction that LA County and city officials are supplying these addicts with illegal pipes and needles that will get them over to Prop 36 prosecution. So if I had Hochman in front of me, I would ask him, why don't you go after these non-medical officials like Babs Ferrer, who are supplying medical malpractice along with narco racketeering conspiracy, and just nail them for helping these people get to the Prop 36 perimeter.
You know, it's interesting, Bill. I wonder if you get arrested on that third Prop 36 charge and you got caught with a meth pipe provided to you by Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles, funded to you by Barbara Ferrer, if you can defend in court that this is entrapment because the county's the one that gave you the paraphernalia to do the drugs.
Randy, I actually wrote that down. That was something else I wanted to say. No kidding. And along with that, what's going to happen when the county and city get sued by somebody for medical malpractice and harming these people? Like some relative says, hey, you're actually harming my brother by doing that. I'm going to sue the county for millions. Who's going to pay for that? We are.
That's actually another brilliant idea, and I'm sure the county will settle like they settle every other lawsuit, whether it's legit or frivolous. Bill, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's go to Dale in Long Beach. Dale, hello.
Yeah, Randy, Gavin Newsom spends billions of dollars of our rainy day fund, but he can't fund this program. He's soft on crime.
It is a $300 billion budget. They were asking for $250 million for treatment beds for the people convicted on Prop 36 drug crimes. That's not even I think that's not even a decimal of 1% of the budget. Gavin Newsom's priorities are out of whack, and we got to make sure whoever gets in there next that they actually care about this issue. Dale, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. One of the candidates that's running for governor that maybe has a chance, we'll see, it all depends if Kamala's running or not, is former Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. He recently sat down on a podcast that's based in L.A. where... well, it's where this drop came from.
I saved my own money, and I wouldn't spend it on anything. I'd ask my mother for the candy, and my favorite candy back then and still is M&M's.
Oh, wow. Regular?
No, peanut. I love M&M peanuts.
That's from the Social Venture podcast, which they talked to about a whole bunch of issues. And it's pretty obvious from the interviews that Tony Villaraigosa has done lately. He is trying to run to the right of every other Democrat running, including on Prop 36, which he says he supported before the election.
I think most people do want the change. I agree with you. Some people may not know they want it until they get it and see the improvement. I can't tell you the number of people that walk up to me and say, can you run for mayor again?
Gee, I wonder why they're saying that. Could it be that as bad as Tony V was, the two mayors after him were infinitely and exponentially worse?
I think people are starting to see that I was focused on getting things done. And I think people are now more open to the idea that, yes, we're going to challenge what's happening in Washington when it hurts people in California. But the best way to help Californians is to improve their quality of life.
I agree.
That may not sound sexy. That may not work for some.
Nothing that Tony V says at this age sounds sexy.
That may not work for some people, and that's fine. I think there are enough people in the state that are up to here. In Spanish, harta, up to here. They want someone to focus on public safety with a balance, respecting civil liberties and human rights, but also having the accountability. Remember, I'm the guy that took on 3 strikes or out in the 90s. I led the fight against the prison industrial complex, but I also was the only candidate that supported Prop 36.
He's reformed. He was to the left on a lot of these issues, and now he's to the right. He said to the oil companies, go back to Texas, and now he goes after Gavin for chasing out the oil companies. Who knows what he believes in now, but who knows what most of these people believe in now? Most politicians believe in what they think is popular.
And someone said to me, well, you must have done a poll on that. I said, I didn't do a poll. I said, we've had addiction in our families. And, the first time somebody needs help, and you try to get them help, if they refuse it, you might support them. The second time, you might continue to support them. The third time, you're an enabler.
The third time, they stole everything in your house.
And that's how I treated the smash and grab Prop 36.
But by the way, I don't think Antonio Villaraigosa really has a chance to be governor. But good on him for saying this now.
You might continue to support them. The third time, you're an enabler.
That's what we're doing. We're enabling human suffering every single day by not picking these people up off the streets, getting them into treatment, or if they need it, getting them into prison. And we'll see what the opinions are on this very important issue for the next governor, especially if the current governor doesn't want to fund this. Hey, thanks so much for listening to the show. Seriously, if you got a couple of minutes, go to findyourrep.legislature.ca.gov and write your member of the Assembly and State Senate on any issue, including this one that's driving you crazy. Maybe it won't do anything, but maybe if enough of us do, they'll realize that we're paying attention. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.